You don't come back from pushing a child in front of 50 people. Karen thought she could. She always did. She thought a clarifying email, or some twisted HOA guideline would clean up the mess like it always had. But this time there were witnesses. This time she laid hands on the wrong kid. And this time, the lake didn't belong to her anymore. The night after the meeting, while Karen was scrambling to do damage control, I was meeting Donna at the courthouse with Grant Beasley. We filed the final deed transfer. The papers were signed, stamped, and filed. Just like that, Silver Lake, the crown jewel of Karen's kingdom, was mine. And she had no clue. Not yet. Because I wasn't going to tell her in a letter. I was going to show her. In public. In front of the same people who had started to realize they were living in a house of mirrors. And this time I wouldn't just be fighting back. I'd be flipping the whole damn table. If you're just joining us after watching the first part of this story, welcome back. And if you missed it, do yourself a favor and watch from the beginning, because what's coming next hits harder when you've seen the full build-up. Now, if you've ever wanted to watch someone like Karen get absolutely blindsided in public, you're gonna want to stick around. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Trust me, we read every one. Let's get back to it. The morning after the lake became mine, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to the city's Parks and Recreation Department. I told them I was the new owner of Silver Lake and that I wanted to transfer recreational access rights back to the city, so anyone from town could fish there without fear of fines, fees, or HOA power trips. The second was to my old friend Mark, a video producer. Can you be at Silver Lake in 2 days with a drone, 2 cameras, and a mic? He didn't ask why. He just said, see you there. Meanwhile, Karen was spiraling. She sent out a statement the next morning calling the incident with Lucy a misunderstanding blown out of proportion, and insisted no physical contact occurred. That might have worked if she hadn't done it in front of half the neighborhood. 2 residents replied with statements of their own. Then 5 more. Then Eleanor posted a video from her phone that showed Lucy hitting the ground. The comments exploded. Karen shut off comments. That week, 3 homes in the HOA removed their Silver Lake Proud signs from the yard. The local newsletter, usually filled with bake sale announcements, ran an anonymous editorial titled, When Power Stops Listening. The dam was breaking. Then came the party. Karen threw a lakeside event to reaffirm the HOA's vision for excellence. It was meant to show strength, control. A comeback moment. She stood in front of her printed banners, handed out plastic wine glasses with her logo, gave the same tired speech about moving forward together. And I let her finish it. Then I walked up with a printed copy of the deed. I handed it to her slowly. She looked down at the page. She looked back up at me. She went pale. This isn't real, she said. This is a stunt. Grant Beasley stepped out from the crowd and said, I assure you it's very real. That was the moment. The precise second her world cracked. People gathered around. You mean, you don't own the lake? Someone asked. She never did, I said. She just leased it. And the lease expired last week. Someone else, wait, so this whole time, we've been fined for something she didn't even own? The murmur turned to full-blown voices. Confused, angry, stunned. I handed out printed notices. As of today, the lake is public access. No fishing ban. No HOA restrictions. No Karen. Karen was frozen. She didn't speak. Just stood there like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. And I wasn't done. Also, I added, we filed a formal request for a full audit of the HOA's financials, including every community improvement in the last 5 years. That got more gasps than the deed. Because now it wasn't just about a lake. It was about everything. That night, she tried to issue a counterstatement, claimed she'd been misled by Riverstone, that there was legal ambiguity. But the contract was airtight. She had nothing to stand on. Our group's private page lit up. Neighbors who had never dared speak now posted their stories. We started collecting formal testimonies. More people joined the audit petition. And Karen? She stopped showing up to meetings. Stopped walking the neighborhood. The queen had retreated. But I knew better. People like Karen don't give up. They go quiet, and come back uglier. And I had a feeling she wasn't done just yet. For the first time in a decade, Silver Lake Bluffs had a weekend without Karen. No patrols. No clipboard. No passive-aggressive flyers. People were stunned. You could feel it, this strange, fragile peace. Neighbors talked in driveways again. Kids rode their bikes without glancing over their shoulders. Someone even put up a porch swing without submitting a form. But I didn't let my guard down. Because I knew Karen. Silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. Sure enough, by Tuesday her next move hit inboxes across the neighborhood. A long, legal-sounding email titled, "Clarification regarding recent developments." She claimed the HOA had been temporarily unaware of the lake's ownership transition, that it was working to resolve the oversight, and that misinformation had created confusion among residents. It ended with a not-so-subtle threat: "Please remember the HOA maintains enforcement rights over community aesthetics and conduct." Translation: "You may have the lake, but I still run your lives." Except she didn't. At least not for much longer. That same day, Samuel and I filed an official complaint with the state HOA Regulatory Board. We submitted 47 signed testimonies, financial inconsistencies, unauthorized expenditures, and the full incident report from the night she shoved Lucy. And then we dropped the bomb. Nina, the florist, got a hold of an internal invoice Karen never meant to leak. It was a chemical treatment request from a landscaping company. Paid by HOA funds. Marked urgent. The date? 2 days before a sudden fish die-off at the lake last summer. Karen had told everyone it was seasonal algae bloom. The city never investigated. But that invoice listed a banned copper-based compound, one known to kill aquatic life when misused. We added that to the report. Then we printed it and slid it into every mailbox in Silver Lake Bluffs. The community lost it. That night I got 17 calls. People crying, yelling, furious. A woman 2 streets over had buried her son's pet turtle that week, not knowing it had likely been poisoned. A boy posted a photo of him crying next to a bucket of floating minnows from last year. Suddenly this wasn't about fines or newsletters. This was about trust, safety, health. And Karen? She didn't issue a statement this time. She couldn't. Because by then the HOA board, the very people who once smiled politely as she talked, were jumping ship. 3 board members resigned within 48 hours. One of them, Tom, called me privately. "I knew she bent the rules," he said. "But I didn't know she'd go that far. We thought she was controlling, sure, but not dangerous." The city got involved next. An inspector from Environmental Services came to test the lake water. He told me off the record, "This doesn't look like an accident." Meanwhile, Eleanor and I arranged a town hall, real, public, and packed. We held it in the local rec center. Over 80 people showed up. Donna gave a short presentation on homeowners' rights. Samuel walked through the financial breakdown. I stood up and spoke last. I didn't yell. I didn't rant. I just said, "This isn't about revenge. It's about ending a culture of fear. It's about our kids not getting shoved. It's about not having to look over our shoulder every time we step on our own grass. It's about a lake that belongs to people, not power." The room stood up. Literally. Standing ovation. And then something wild happened. People started tearing up their violation letters. Right there in the room. Folding them. Ripping them. Throwing them into a big trash bin we'd labeled Karen's Kingdom. It was symbolic, sure. But it mattered. The neighborhood wasn't scared anymore. And the next morning I found a single sheet of paper taped to my front door. Type. No name. Just one line. "Back off, or your kid won't be the only one who gets hurt." After I read that note, "Back off or your kid won't be the only one who gets hurt," I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch watching the hallway where Lucy's door was. She didn't know. I didn't tell her. Not yet. But something had shifted. This wasn't just about HOA drama anymore. This was personal. And dangerous. The next morning I went to Home Depot and bought 4 motion-activated security cameras. By noon I had them installed. One above the porch, one facing the driveway, one watching the backyard, and one hidden inside the fake birdhouse near the mailbox. Then I called my brother-in-law, Hank, former Marine, now a private security consultant. He was on a flight that night. While we waited, I kept up appearances. Yard work. Grocery runs. Nods at the neighbors. But behind the scenes, Project Lighthouse was now operating like a full-blown operation. Samuel brought in a contact from a state audit office who started combing through HOA bank records. Donna filed an injunction to freeze discretionary spending until the investigation was complete. Eleanor organized volunteers to assist the city's environmental inspector in sampling water and soil around the lake. It felt like we were building a case against a cartel, not just a control freak with a clipboard. And then we got the footage. It was 2:43 a.m. on a Thursday. The backyard camera caught a shadow slipping through the fence gate. Small figure. Fast. Wore a hoodie pulled low. In their hand, a small jug. They went straight to the shoreline and poured the contents into the water. Slowly. Carefully. Then ran. Next night, same time. Same person. Different container. But this time? They slipped. The person caught their foot on a rock, fell forward, and looked straight into the camera for 1 full second before scrambling up and running. Was Karen. Hair pulled back. No makeup. But clear as day. We didn't just have suspicion anymore. We had proof. I sent the clip to Grant, then to Donna, then to the environmental inspector, who had just received preliminary water test results. Confirmed presence of illegal copper sulfate, and in amounts far higher than regulation allows. No permit. No city notice. The poisoning wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Karen had tried to destroy the lake she couldn't control anymore. I drove straight to the city police department and filed an official report. They took one look at the footage and said, "We'll take it from here." I didn't know what would happen next, but I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, just after lunch, 3 patrol cars pulled into Silver Lake Bluffs. Quiet. No sirens. Karen was at the community garden, pretending to pull weeds in her tailored gloves. The officers approached. Come. Professional. She looked confused at first, then furious, then terrified. They read her rights, slapped the cuffs on, and walked her out, past the gazebo, past the fountain she billed the HOA $42,000 for, past the residents who stood frozen, watching. Someone filmed it. Someone else clapped. Karen didn't look at me. Not once. But I didn't need her to. Because that wasn't the end. That was just the start of something better. We had our lake back. We had our peace back. But most of all, we had each other back. The fear was gone. And Karen? She was exactly where she belonged. The arrest didn't just ripple through Silver Lake Bluffs. It exploded. By morning, the footage of Karen in cuffs was everywhere. Someone posted it on Nextdoor. Then Reddit. Then a local news blog picked it up. Within hours, it had nearly 100,000 views under the title, HOA President Arrested for Poisoning Lake After Losing Power. It even made it onto a late-night show. The host called her Karen of the Year. And for the first time ever, she couldn't control the narrative. The phone calls started coming in, reporters, local politicians, even a documentary filmmaker. I ignored most of them. This wasn't about fame. But it was about accountability. 3 days after the arrest, the city hosted a public hearing at the Civic Center. An open forum. Anyone who wanted to speak could take the mic. And speak they did. Eleanor went first. She told the room how Karen fined her for a ramp that helped her late husband get down the steps in a wheelchair. Said it violated visual standards. Next came Tom, the former board member. He shared how Karen pressured him to approve budgets without review, whispering that too many questions made people look disloyal. Then Samuel. With charts, receipts, timelines. He laid it all out, down to the cent. And then, Lucy asked to speak. I hesitated. But she stepped up anyway. She stood there holding the mic with both hands. Small. Brave. Her voice shook at first. I don't understand all the adult stuff, she said. But she pushed me. And told me I couldn't fish anymore. And I thought I did something wrong. She paused. Looked right at Karen, who sat in the back, stone-faced. But I didn't. She did. Silence. Then applause. Then tears. Even the city rep choked up a little. After the forum, the Environmental Services Department released their final report. It confirmed high levels of copper sulfate and documented intentional contamination consistent with deliberate poisoning. The case was handed to the county prosecutor. Karen was facing 3 charges now. Felony environmental misconduct, child endangerment, fraudulent misuse of community funds. Still, her lawyer tried one last stunt. They called a press conference, not in our town but 2 cities over, trying to dodge the backlash. It didn't help. By the time she stepped up to the mic, there were protesters outside holding signs. Justice for Lucy. No more Karens. My HOA is next. She tried to say it was all a misunderstanding. That she acted with good intentions. That the chemicals were meant to control algae. But the public was done listening. Even her own family wasn't there. And then came the final twist. A man in the crowd, mid-50s, quiet, wearing a veteran's cap, stood up and said, "Ma'am, you fine me $500 because my front porch flag was too faded. That flag was on my brother's coffin." Karen froze. That clip went more viral than the arrest. And at that moment, whatever sympathy she had left, gone. Over the next week, we held a community day at the lake. No speeches. No rules. Just kids with fishing poles. Blankets. Hot dogs. Music. And a bonfire. We set up a metal bin and one by one, folks tossed in their violation slips. Some brought stacks. Others brought just one. Even folks who had moved out came back to take part. And when Lucy stepped up, she tossed in a pink envelope, the very first fine Karen ever gave us. For unauthorized dock activity. It curled, blackened, and disappeared into the flames. Karen Langford always thought she could talk her way out of anything. So the moment she made bail, she did what she always does. Tried to spin the story. The following morning, a local TV station aired a segment titled, Community Leader or Target of Smear Campaign? There she was, in a navy blazer, hair done, reading off a script. I've served my community with dedication for years, she said. These allegations are part of a coordinated effort by a small group of individuals with personal agendas. I would never harm anyone, much less a child or our beautiful environment. I almost laughed. Then she added, I was framed. That part? I didn't laugh. Because suddenly I wasn't just a whistleblower anymore, I was the villain in her version of the story. But it didn't work. Not this time. The community didn't buy it. Not after the video, not after the lake, not after Lucy. Her interviews were met with backlash. Comments flooded in, not from strangers but from our neighbors. You pushed a kid. You poisoned our lake. Take your lies somewhere else. Even the news anchor looked uncomfortable by the end. And then, silence. Karen's lawyer tried to file a motion to suppress the video footage from our cameras. It failed. Her defense crumbled. Meanwhile, the HOA was falling apart. 2 more board members resigned. The community treasury was frozen pending investigation. And for the first time in 10 years we had no president, no fines, no ridiculous memos. It was like waking up after a storm. But we knew we had to rebuild. So Eleanor, bless her, called for a public vote to dissolve the current HOA and form a new homeowners council. This time with real rules. Real transparency. Real power in the hands of the people. We held the vote in the old clubhouse Karen used to call her office. Over 90% voted in favor of reform. We shredded the old charter. Started fresh. And guess who they asked to chair the interim board? Yeah, me. I didn't want the title. Still don't. But I wanted the place to heal. For Lucy. For the neighbors who finally had a voice again. Our first acts? No more arbitrary fines. No more hidden budgets. No more HOA presidents for life. And most importantly, the lake stays public. Forever. We named it Grace Lake, after my late wife. Lucy cried when we unveiled the new sign. So did I. But not all tears are sad. The next few weeks were quiet. Beautifully quiet. No one banged on doors with violation slips. No more newsletters shaming people for leaving out trash cans. Just kids playing. Neighbors talking. Barbecue smoke in the air. And on the first Sunday of spring, Lucy caught a bluegill off the dock. She smiled just like she had the very first day before all of this. Only this time? Nobody stopped her. Thanks for watching this wild ride. If you love seeing justice served one Karen at a time, like, subscribe and stick around. More true stories coming your way soon.